Round up, detain and deport illegal immigrants. That's what new Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has just promised to do. Well, do you believe the woman who held up a sign saying refugees welcome, closed the Bibi Stockholm and scrapped Rwanda on day one? Here's Home Office Minister Seema Malhotra trying to sell this plan today.
The Prime Minister announced our first steps, in which we would be bringing in the Border Security Command and also taking steps to make sure that rules are enforced. That's why today's announcement is so important. We're announcing that we've got 100 new staff, specialist officers in the NCA, boosting numbers by a third to make sure that there is the capability we need to tackle those evil criminal gangs that are undermining our border security and putting lives at risk.
Yvette Cooper has promised to deport 14,500 people in the next 6 months. Now, for context, our Home and Security Editor Mark White estimates that there are roughly 1.2 million illegal migrants in the UK. What Ms Cooper is conveniently not telling us, though, is that she plans to deport people who are working illegally in Britain or overstaying their visas to country who we already have returns agreements with. The low-hanging fruit, as it were. But this will do nothing to combat the Channel migrant crisis. Under Labour, we now have no deterrent. In fact, we actually have a massive incentive. Every single person who arrives illegally will be able to claim asylum under Labour because they're ignoring, it seems, the Illegal Migration Act. So will everyone on the backlog. So she says that she's going to increase capacity at detention facilities like Campsfield House and Gospar. Well, the left wing of her own party opposed this. MPs like John McDonnell, Diane Abbott, they signed a Commons motion opposing the inhumane detention of migrants at these centres. So she's got a rebellion on her hands there, hasn't she? Will Yvette Cooper go to war with the hard left? I'm not sure she will. Oh, and apparently it will take about 6 months to increase the capacity by a few hundred, all right? Well, around 15,000 Channel migrants could cross in that time. She says that she's going to increase the number of people processing asylum claims, but they're still going to be subject to appeal. And then she will suddenly have to contend with the same lefty lawyers that Labour have been cozying up to for years. Now, just to illustrate for you the psychology of some of the people who work as human rights or immigration lawyers in Britain, earlier this week, an asylum seeker was sent to jail for stabbing his own lawyer, OK? And that lawyer then said he felt sorry for the Eritrean who stabbed him because he has completed 5 years of residency being an asylum seeker from Eritrea and he would have been granted permanent residence. He said this incident has done a lot of damage to him as well. It's madness, isn't it? And we still don't have anyone in charge of the new border command. Why is that, I wonder? The Home Secretary can make a lot of noise about deporting people working in nail bars or car washes, but we have both sides of the Sudanese civil war currently fighting each other in Dunkirk and trying to come across to the Channel. And as it stands, she doesn't seem to have any plans to stop those boats. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. I'm joined by the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. I also have political consultant Suzanne Evans and author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Mark, so 14,500 people, if indeed she manages to do it, that sounds OK. But as we've just seen, the actual practicalities of all of this, they don't seem to add up.
Yeah, I think that's right, Patrick. And actually, although that would be an advance on recent years, it's nothing like the sort of numbers we were regularly deporting 15 or so years ago. Look, credit where credit is due. It is a baby step, I would say that, in the right direction, in that there has been a problem on capacity and enforcement. And the previous Conservative government needs to take quite a lot of the blame for that. But I think you hit the nail on the head in the end of your remarks there, that if the present legal structures remain the same, this is largely for the birds, because the whole process takes forever. I've lost count, Patrick, now how many times I've said on your show, why does it take 18 months to reach a decision? I'm not saying it can be done in 18 hours, but it should be done in 18 days. And unless we can streamline the legal process, there should be safeguards, obviously, but I don't think safeguards that require 1.5 years on average, then really, I mean, this is a sledgehammer to fail to crack a nut, not much of a sledgehammer either. So small step in the right direction. Enforcement matters, better administration, more capacity matters, but it's the legal system behind it that you've really got to fix, and there is no appetite to do that.
The 18-month thing, the general answer, because I've asked the same question, I've interviewed people who work in this, and one of the reasons it takes 18 months is because they're very long forms, and they're generally filled out by people who are very overworked and understaffed, and if you make one error in the form, then you can appeal it.
Well, that's
and
ridiculous,
every single time we've all filled out forms online, right? Like, it's really easy to do one box wrong, and every time that happens, the whole thing starts again.
But you're rather speaking to my case, Rebecca, that if one small, rather irrelevant box has been ticked wrong, we shouldn't go back to the starting point. We need a much more flexible, streamlined system.
But I think sometimes we look at this and we make it this huge, like, slightly tinfoil hat, like, conspiracy theory thing, and it's not that. It's a bad system.
It's a terrible
It's badly set up. It's not good tech. And some of this is just handling it better, just processing it better.
OK, yeah, fine. But it remains to be seen what they're actually trying to do about that. The numbers of people that they're looking to employ in that, I'm not really sure that equates to the amount of people needed necessarily in order to do it.
Certainly an improvement.
It's more than we had, so by definition, yes. But Suzanne, I do wonder whether or not she's capable of dealing with the same lefty lawyers. I mean, I just gave an example there of a lawyer there who had been stabbed by an asylum seeker that he was trying to help. That guy's gone to prison, and he still comes out and says, I feel sorry for this guy, because if he had not stabbed me, I could have let him stay in Britain. I mean, this is the kind of people they're going to be dealing with now.
Yeah, it is quite astonishing, isn't it? And, of course, you've got a huge illegal immigration legal system now, and that is a gravy train. I've walked past a lawyer's office in southwest London, and I couldn't believe it. I saw they actually had in their shop window, as it were, a list of people who they were working for in immigration cases, and there were like 6 or 7 blackboards full of foreign names, and I was gobsmacked. I thought, this is just one small legal practice in southwest London. It is an absolute racket, and I think Mark and Rebecca are actually agreeing the whole system must be sped up, and it is a nonsense, and the bureaucracy that's happening should sort it out. But I think, as Mark says, this is a step in the right direction. But I think Yvette Cooper is being a bit deluded. You know, she wants to deport 14,500 illegal migrants in the next 6 months, by which time, on current trends, 16,000 will have come over in small boats alone. And, of course, that's not the whole...
Well, yes, but if you don't do that, then you've got 30,000 more people that you guys didn't want here. Like, it does seem like you're really determined not to be pleased by this...
One thing that I will say
is it doesn't... Rebecca, they're all talking about it, nobody's doing anything.
Yeah,
Same with the Tories.
But the thing is, it's not a deterrent to coming across the Channel, because the people who are coming across the Channel, almost to a man, are coming from countries, or at least claiming to, where we have no returns agreement. And what she's announcing here does nothing to stop that at all.
Well, there's 2 things there. One of them is that is one part of the problem, but one of the biggest demographics of people who come here come from Vietnam. And that is still illegal immigration, and it's still a problem if you think that it's a problem. So low-hanging fruit is not a bad thing to get rid of. Why it wasn't done with the previous government, I don't understand, but if you can do it, do it. That makes sense. Secondarily, in terms of the Channel problem, that is a really, really sticky problem that's been a sticky problem for a long time. But I'm telling you, the gangs are the place to really put your energy. If you can smash the gangs, then you really can stop the flow. And then it's about better negotiations with France, because France are taking the word I can't say.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But they're not smashing the gangs.
Yeah, that's...
Well, no, but they've been in power for 49 days.
Yeah, but it was always a ridiculous thing to say. Smash the gangs.
It's probably unachievable.
No, it's not. It's not a soundbite. It's a plan.
There are 500 gangs spread across the world.
I've interviewed people who work in cybersecurity whose main job is trying to do this, who under the previous government said there have been times where we literally could have got people and we didn't have the funding to do it. If you don't invest in it, people can't do it. It's mostly cybercrime.
But here's the essence of the problem. I'm sceptical about gang smashing. It hasn't really worked in the war on drugs, for example. I don't think it will work in the war on people trafficking either. What you've got to make sure is that what these gangs are selling is not a viable product. And at the moment, it is a vaguely viable product. It's hugely expensive.
I'm not sure you're right about that, because you can die doing it.
No, you can die doing it, but your chances
they're
not very slim.
Very slim, Rebecca.
You can die doing it, but you've also got a very fair chance of being able to remain in the UK if you make it. If you can change the odds there, you don't need to smash the gangs. You just put them out of business.
But without a returns agreement, that's incredibly complicated.
It is complicated.
You can't just dump people on the side of the road and say...
You can't. You need something like Rwanda.
The other thing, which I don't think can be overstated on this at all, is the strength of opposition from within her own party and from the left that Yvette Cooper is going to come under when she tries to put more people in detention centres. This is a woman who made a virtue of shutting the Bibi Stockholm. That was terrible.
Bibi Stockholm was a liability.
Right, Right, fine. Well, some of these centres they're expanding have historically burnt down. They've had massive suicide rates. They've had riots in there as well. She cannot simultaneously claim that now a good solution to this is to put more people in detention centres like that.
But you run them better as well. You put more people in them, but you don't run them terribly. And also, fundamentally, it doesn't matter if people on the far left of the party don't like it, because they've got a staggering majority and they can afford to annoy a few people.
Can you explain one thing to me, which is that we currently have the illegal migration bill, yes? And under that, anyone who enters Britain illegally now cannot claim asylum. The Labour Party are yet to repeal that, right? So are they breaking the law now by letting these people claim asylum?
I can't clarify that for you because, as I've already said, the law surrounding this is so goddamn complex and not streamlined enough. But I think that the Labour government are trying to have it both ways. I agree with Rebecca that John McDonnell and Diane Abbott kicking off should not cause the Home Secretary too many sleepless nights, given the majority they've got. But I think they're going to have a narrative problem. Is this government going to be serious and, if you like, tough on immigration? And, you know, that is going to require some potentially really difficult decisions. Not all detention centres will be perfect. Bad things will happen in them, and Labour MPs and others will kick off about that. Or are they going to sort of do this, have their cake and eat it bit, which is what they're doing?
Well, no, you say yes to asylum and no to economic migrants. You know, if you need to be here, you should be here, and if you don't, you can't be. That's easy, clear, everyone can understand that.
The thing is, immigration is now, for the first time in 6 years, the #1 concern among the British electorate. If Labour is genuinely serious about this, they could just win another parliamentary term if they sort it out. But at the moment, we're just hearing a lot of rhetoric. They still haven't even appointed the head of Border Security Command, which I think is a gimmick, frankly, but they've not done it yet. We had a lot of rhetoric about stopping the boats from successive Conservative prime ministers. Good luck to Yvette Cooper. If she can do it, she'll probably win another parliamentary term.
She's been in for like 49 days.
We're speculating on what 49 months are going to look like.
I'm speculating on what the future might look like. Right. But as I say, #1 issue again now. Hasn't been for 6 years. #1 issue again.
They've got to fix it.
We'll have to wait and see. Watch this space, and clearly so many people will indeed be watching it with very close